Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public, the beautiful people here in the beautiful island of Nevis, those who are on St. Kitts, those who are throughout the Eastern Caribbean and the rest of the Caribbean. Good evening to you. Good evening to friends and family in the United States and Canada. Those who have stayed up, we know it's late at night. In the United Kingdom, we're truly grateful that you have decided to spend a little time with us this evening. Good evening to all of our listeners online, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're getting this program. We say good evening. There's some who still listen to the radio at 860 on the AM dial. We say good evening to you. This is the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, that has been a staple here on the island of Nevis and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and frankly throughout the Caribbean for decades. And so we are thankful, as always, to VON Radio for giving us the platform to have an exchange of views and opinions with you, to come here on Wednesdays from 8 to 10 for what is still the only show of its kind in the Federation, 2 hours of primetime talk radio without interruption from commercials. And we're able to do that through the kind sponsorship over these past 2 decades plus by the law firm of Daniel Brantley. And so we continue to be grateful to them and to hope that when the history of this island is written, they will get a mention that they spent money to preserve the freedom of expression. There are many people who, when the phone's open, pick up the phone and call. And we say, listen, there's a lot that goes into the show. We spend time to come here, whether it is me or someone else. We use resources, financial and otherwise. VON Radio makes its platform available to us. And so all that we ask when people do decide to call is that we be respectful and that we conduct ourselves in a way that really brings honor to the island of Nevis, to our education system, and to our ability to reason with each other, to commix and commingle, and to deal with each other in a way that even when we choose to disagree, we are not disagreeable. And so that, I think, is very important. For those who don't know me, my name is Mark Brantley. I've been the host of this show for the last 2 decades or so, and I am also the Premier of Nevis, and I am also the leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement. I'm a lawyer by training, a politician by choice, and I'm here to offer insights and discussion and to invite your views and opinions on a wide range of topics each week as we engage one with each other. And hopefully, as we engage with each other, whether through your calls or for those who are just passive listeners, we also assist in educating each other. We have a wide listenership all across the world, but especially in areas where there are large St. Kitts Nevis diaspora, those in New York, those in Connecticut, those up in Boston, those who are really throughout the United States. We have lots of listeners in places like Florida. We have lots and lots of listeners in the U.S. Virgin Islands, in St. Martin, in the British Virgin Islands, in Anguilla, in Montserrat, in Sabre Statia. In all of these islands surrounding us, we have a large listenership. And of course, in our sister St. Kitts, where people listen as well. I think we have an excellent platform, and because of that platform, those who are in Canada, the United Kingdom who listen, we really try our very best to have a show that is of a particular standard, where we encourage all who engage with us to remember what VON's motto is. Here at the Voice of Nevis, they say only the best will do. And it is very important that we maintain those high standards. And as I've said, by so doing, bring credit and honor to our little island. So, let's get into a couple of things. As we know, the show has evolved into a format where I use some of the first hour or so to engage in a conversation, or maybe that's not really a conversation, more of a monologue, a soliloquy, as a young man reminded me recently that he learned that word soliloquy and he uses it now in his own lexicon. And so I say, thank you, people are listening, people are paying attention. And so from time to time I come to the show and, you know, people say to me, how do you do the show? Because I do it without a script. I show up and all I have are my hands and my eyes and my lips and my mouth and whatever it is that's in my mind that I want to talk about. And I try to do that in a way that really brings across the authenticity of the conversation that I hope to engage in. The authenticity and accuracy and trustworthiness of the information that I impart and that I share. And when I come, I don't try to come with frivolity. I try to come and to discuss matters that are truly of importance to the people of Nevis, to the wider Federation, and in fact matters that impact the world. I start tonight perhaps from an unusual position, and that is a matter of international law. As we know, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis has had diplomatic relations with the Republic of China on Taiwan for the past 43 years of independence. It will be 43 years this year, and Taiwan was one of the first countries to recognize us. Mainland China, the People's Republic of China, they have insisted that Taiwan belongs to them. And they have made that claim and continue to make that claim. Now, I won't go into the history because it is not for me to decide whether the claim is right or wrong. What I do know is that I've been privileged to travel to Taiwan. I've been privileged to meet not one, not two, but I think now 3 presidents of Taiwan. I have seen President Tsai, the former president, immediate past president of Taiwan, travel to Nevis, break ground at what is now the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, a project funded by the taxpayers of Taiwan. I have known so many of our young people who have been given an opportunity to study abroad. Many of them have come back and can speak Mandarin. Many of them are today engineers and doctors and people in agriculture and various disciplines, all imparted in Taiwan at the expense of the Taiwanese government and taxpayers. When we look across the landscape of St. Kitts and Nevis, Taiwan's DNA is on every aspect of our development. I have said repeatedly that whilst we have many allies and many friends around the world, Taiwan is not only our friend, Taiwan has proven itself to be our best friend. Whether it is in times of pandemics, medical difficulties, times of natural disasters, Taiwan has always been there. And Taiwan has been of tremendous assistance to us. Taiwan has in turn asked of us as a small country, as an ally, as a genuine friend, that we stand with them, not to wage war, not to engage in hostility, but we stand with them to say to the world that here is a small country by global standards, but a country which epitomizes the very best of democracy, of freedom of expression, of free and fair elections, of a free and fair press, of people who want nothing more than to make their way in life and to live at peace. And I have grown increasingly distressed and increasingly uncomfortable, not just as the Premier of Nevis, but as a husband, as a father, as a human being, as an inhabitant, a co-inhabitant of this planet called Earth, at the extent to which there are countries, leaders, there are regions that are bent on war and violence and threats of war and violence in order to bend others to their will. And so we have learned in the recent news cycle that the president of Taiwan was scheduled to make a trip to Africa, and that once plans were already in order, the overflight of certain African countries was abruptly cancelled. That is, the right of the presidential party to fly over certain countries, that right was cancelled. The consequence, I'm told, is that the Taiwanese president had to abandon his trip. Now, there have been claims and counterclaims, but we all know that mainland China has tremendous influence in Africa. It has perhaps become the most influential country in all of Africa because of the extent of its investment and the extent of the relationships that it has developed in Africa. And the Taiwanese government has accused mainland China of lobbying, or some may say, forcing its African allies to cancel the right of the Taiwanese presidential jet and presidential party to overfly their countries. Just the right to spend whatever temporary time in their airspace to get from point A to point B. That right was abruptly cancelled. Now, I don't question Africa. I don't question the countries in Africa. I don't question anybody's right to do what they think is necessary. But I think that those of us who have a voice, however small, those of us who have an opportunity to speak publicly as I'm now doing, we must continue to urge the world to pursue peace. And where we find peaceful people, like the people of Taiwan, people who are progressive, people who have shared their wealth and their talents with others, people who have aided the development of so many other countries, we have to celebrate that. And to say to mainland China that whatever your historic claims may be, whatever it is you allege that you own or do not own, the existence of Taiwan does no harm or injury to China. The existence of Taiwan does no harm or injury to the rest of the world. In fact, many of us will argue, and argue with convincing authority and with evidence, that Taiwan's presence in the world is actually a benefit to so many. China has used its power to deny Taiwan access to the United Nations, access to various international organizations. It has continued to engage in threatening postures, flying into Taiwanese airspace, military incursions into Taiwanese property, Taiwanese territory. And again, I ask the question, why? Taiwan isn't threatening China in any way. Taiwan, as I understand it, and based on my reading and based on my observations, is merely asking to be left alone so that they could live a life of peace and progress and prosperity for their people. And if I can widen my observations, across this world now we see a propensity for war. We see in Europe, European leaders, and I put the United Kingdom in the category, they're all now spending more on defense. They're all now attributing a greater portion of their budgets to defense. They call it defense. But in fairness, I think that America has been most honest when it has reclassified and renamed its Department of Defense to its Department of War. Because let us be real with each other. When you build up an arsenal and you spend so much of your budget, billions and in some cases trillions of dollars, on the implements of war, can you truly be said to be preparing for defense? No, you're preparing for war. And that, sadly, is where we now find ourselves in this world. We see the United States of America launching attacks at will, going into Venezuela, going into Iran. We see Israel responding to the atrocities committed by Hamas on Israeli soil, going into Gaza and engaging in a way in Gaza which many, even those who are staunch supporters of Israel, found to be unconscionable. We see the South Sudan and the war that has broken out there. We see the long-running conflict in Syria, which has only just recently come to an end. It just seems, my friends, that we have this never-ending state of war, of violence. And I ask you to answer me this. What has war ever achieved? Other than suffering, other than children without parents, parents without children, devastation. I saw today a report on Gaza And they say that the Israeli actions in Gaza, the bombing in Gaza, the war that was waged in Gaza, has set Gaza back 77 years in terms of its development. Now imagine with me, if you can, what Nevis would have been like 77 years ago. And imagine if all the progress we've made, our roads and bridges, our parks and schools and hospital, clinics, and everything else that we would have done, our water system, our electricity system, is blown away, so that we are put back to where we were 77 years ago. Take us back to 1949, 1950. That's what the news reported this morning about Gaza. And what I fear, brothers and sisters, is that some of us, because we are here and we live in these idyllic, peaceful islands of the Caribbean, and for which we are grateful to God, we feel that we are insulated, that we have some form of immunity from this violence and threats of violence that's happening throughout the world. And if you've gone to the gas station recently, you know that there is no immunity. I recently got some seafood, and when the fisherman said to me what the price was, I said, well, how is it that the price is this high? And he pointed out that the cost of fuel had gone up so significantly that he had no choice. And so these wars and rumors of wars are not some far off threat. They're not something that we can scoff at and say that they don't apply to us or they don't affect us. The truth is that they do affect us. They affect the cost of living. They affect the price of food. They affect the cost of insurance. They affect supply chains, our ability to construct what we want, because we can't get the supplies that we need. And more than that, they affect our humanity. That collective thing that makes us human. When you see the level of suffering that is wrought by people, leaders, whether through ego, whether through race, religion, or some broadly defined notion of national security, they go to war. And I therefore want to wrap the whole Taiwan situation in that context and to say that where we find people who have never demonstrated any effort to harm anyone, who to the contrary have demonstrated an effort and a willingness to help others, that the right-minded, right-thinking people of the world should rally around those countries. And it matters not, in my humble opinion, that you have not recognized Taiwan. In fact, in the Caribbean region, within CARICOM, I'm aware that the three saints, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia and St. Kitts and Nevis, are allies of Taiwan. I think Belize continues to be an ally of Taiwan. All of the others, Haiti as well, forgive me, continues to be an ally of Taiwan. All of the others have forged diplomatic relations with mainland China. And so tonight I'm saying, even to my brothers and sisters in leadership around the Caribbean region, that you have relations with China, and we must all respect your sovereign right to have relations with whom you wish to have relations with. Just as you must respect the right of St. Kitts Nevis, Haiti, Belize, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and St. Lucia to have diplomatic relations with Taiwan. That is our sovereign right. So we are not debating that. But I'm calling on my brothers and sisters to leverage your relations with China to say, listen, let peace reign. Let not the Taiwan Straits become yet another theater for conflict. If Taiwan poses no threat, no national security risk to China, then why all the efforts to frustrate the legitimate aspirations of the people of Taiwan to have their own space and to live at peace with each other and with the world? And that to me is where the basic humanity comes in. We have all around the world these claims and counterclaims. United States says they're going to take Greenland. Venezuela says that so much of the Essequibo region in Guyana belongs to them. Guatemala says Belize, huge sections of Belize belongs to them. And to what end? It is almost similar to greedy people, full of avarice and bad mind, who have so much already, but still they would take from the poor widow, they would take from the orphan, they will rob the blind and cheat the sick. And you know, the irony of ironies is at the end of the day, all of us, rich, poor, powerful, powerless, will have to go and leave it right there. All of us will have to go and leave it. If we are lucky, we get a box 6 foot 6 inches, they say. And what was the floor on which we walked, the dirt on which we walked, will then become the ceiling under which we rest. So if we look at life in that way, we realize that so much of what we engage in is but folly. So much of what we engage in is actually meaningless. And what I believe we need to do, and I'm not necessarily making a religious statement, but it occurs with every religion known to mankind. Whether it is Islam, whether it is Buddhism, Hinduism, whether it is Christianity, whatever religion that I have ever heard of, peace, peacefulness, people living with each other as good neighbors, are all cardinal principles of every religion that I'm aware of. The Bible speaks about the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. These aren't just words on a page. These are important tenets that us as human beings, amongst each other, in our families, in our communities, in our countries, but also in the context of country-to-country relations, international and diplomatic relations, we must learn to live at peace with each other. You notice when there's a time of peace, that it also coincides with a time of prosperity. You notice when there's a time of peace, it coincides with a time of progress. Because when people are at peace, we then take our talents and we apply our talents to progressive things, to doing things that make us prosperous. Why then do we spend so much time hating each other, attacking each other, and trying to go after each other with violence and threats of violence? I am hopeful that the people of Taiwan will be allowed to live at peace. That is all they ask. They have not asked anybody for any favors. They're not seeking the financial or economic support of mainland China. They have demonstrated, a small country, 26 million people or thereabouts, that they can make their way in the world. The semiconductor industry, for example, is world class, world leaders. They have applied their talents, their intellectual ability, and they have done well. And what I find is instructive, they have, as a policy, decided to share their knowledge, share their technology, share their wealth with the rest of the world, particularly those countries like our own, which is not yet at that stage of advanced development. Give Taiwan the chance to live in peace. Respect the right of a people to say, we want to have our own space, not to threaten anybody, but we want to have our own space so that we can have our own identity and to live in peace with each other and with all mankind. Now, as I move now from these matters of international affairs, it was brought to my attention that the opposition political party here on Nevis continues down a particular road of spewing hatred and violence and creating a sense that that is the way that we want this island to go. I keep coming on this station, going on social media, and every opportunity that I have to interact with the public, I urge our people not to inject violence into our lives. And more specifically, not to inject violence into our politics. It is alien to St. Kitts and Nevis. There are other countries around the world, and even right here in the Caribbean, Jamaica being a good example, where violence has in the past plagued their politics. And when elections are announced, it becomes a war zone where people die. That is not St. Kitts and Nevis. And let me leave St. Kitts out of this for the moment. Let me deal with Nevis. I have never known in Nevis for there to be political violence. We have had, of course, situations where politicians have come under attack. I can well remember when shots were fired through the office window of the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. But as a tool, a political tool, violence has never been part of our DNA. I have come on this very radio station before and played for the general public some clips. One idiot called in from the United States on an NRP radio station, an NRP program, to say that Nevis needed guns and that we needed a revolution. Another idiot on the show, again, NRP radio, NRP show, said that he was having a discussion with his colleague, and he told his colleague that people like me, Mark Brantley, needed to be shot. And just today, a clip came to my attention. We're on yet another NRP show. Yet another idiot calls in to say that I and my colleagues deserve to be put in front of a firing squad. And what bothers me is, of course, that these callers are making these calls, that hosts sitting down in the studio are saying these things, but also when they make these calls, that the hosts who are there aren't correcting them. They aren't saying, no, 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 that's not the way to go. They're giggling, they're laughing, they're encouraging it. And I look at the two hosts for this particular incident brought to my attention today. One called Dr. Kelvin Daly, another called Hensley Daniel. Both failed politicians, both retired, and I put my hand up because I'm the one who retired both of them. Beat them like a bongo drum. Not with violence, but with ideas, with going out there and speaking to the people, and the people responding positively to a message of hope. People responding positively to the ideas that are espoused. Both of them beaten like bongo drums, now retired, and bitter. Bitter like tomfish. Bitter like gall. And so when people call in and say foolishness, I use the word idiot because I think what they're saying is idiotic, and say that I and my colleagues deserve to be put in front of a firing squad. These two rejects, political rejects, are there, grinning and skinning like Sammy Monkey. Instead of them saying, no, there is no place in our politics for that kind of rhetoric. And I have a difficulty with that. I keep saying to our people, where things start is not where they end, you know. Where things start is not where they end. The Jamaicans have a saying, same knife, stick sheep, stick goat. Some of you feel that you can go down a particular road, threaten violence against people, encourage and incite violence against people, and then what? You think that you're going to be free to walk around and be comfortable? That's not the way that life works. And I keep advocating and agitating. There is no place in Nevis for that. Man, if you want CCM out of government so bad, bring your ideas. Tell the division people what you can do for them. Tell them what your plans and programs are. We have a situation in our island now where one side, that is the Concerned Citizens Movement, is getting up every day seeking to do what it can to build the island of Nevis. We get up every day. You may not agree with what we do. You may not agree with all the decisions we take, but you can be assured that we are out there every day seeking to build this island that we all say we love. You have the other side, and all they do from morning till night is cuss. They cuss the young doctors at the hospital. They cuss the young graduates, say they don't know what they're doing. They single out individuals for vitriolic attacks. Individual members of the cabinet, young people, older people, females. It does not matter. They curse me, they curse my wife, they curse my children, they curse my family members, they curse, and I keep asking the question, how does cussing provide one job in Nevis? How does cussing fix one road in Nevis? How does cussing advance health care one iota in Nevis? How does cussing help us to prevent crime and violence? In fact, some may say it encourages it. How does cussing help any of us? And when the lines open, if any of you out there could explain to me how cussing help any of us, I will be minded to listen. Now, I am not here talking about a passionate exchange of views and differences of opinion. Politics as we practice it has its peak on. We understand that there is the comment and the counter comment. I'm talking about when every single thing is rah, 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 with not one idea being put on the table. And I keep saying, if the idea that the CCM has is to build a highway, it is not enough for you to say it's a bad idea. You must also offer the people of Nevis your idea. Well, I will not build a highway. I will build a bridge instead. That's okay. Then we could have a debate. But all you have is a constant diet, a constant stream of cussing and negativity. And you see what is happening now, ladies and gentlemen? The NRP has lost nearly every election they have contested since 1992. They eked out one victory in 2006, and there's still a question mark over that one. And then they stole outright an election in 2011. When the judge grabbed them, the judge said, no, null and void. You have to redo that one. And then they got the spanking of their life. The same Henry Daniel, he's now saying he's the circuit warden at the Methodist Church, circuit steward, circuit something. Big office in the church. But he's sitting down as a panelist on a program and hearing somebody say that I and my government deserve the firing squad. And what is the joke in that? These are the things that bother me. Because people who you would expect to know better, people you would expect to do better, these are the very ones who tell you, put them in charge. They want to run Nevis. They want to make decisions for you when they have no integrity, none whatsoever. Because we understand it is not about whether we make mistakes or not. We will. We're human. And as far as I know, Adam was perfect, and even Adam sinned, and Jesus was perfect. So mistakes will happen. But people at least need to know that you're passionate about this island and you want progress for this island. And we may disagree sometimes on how that progress should come and what form it should take. But we should all be striving to move this island forward. Where does violence come into that equation? And how can people, hence Daniel, I'm calling his name tonight because he was the deputy premier of this island, and hence he's now an old man. You mean hence he don't have better sense than to sit down on a panel? You mean his good Methodist teaching doesn't kick in and he said, boy, I'm the circuit steward of the church and I can't associate myself with these calls for violence against people? And what is the sin that Mark and the CCM has committed? Our sin is that the people of Nevis have consistently said, we prefer you. We sentence you to 5 more years in government. And when you come, we're going to sentence you to another 5 more years in government. The people love us. The people have shown that they love us. Because election after election, whether it was under Vance Emery or now under Mark Brantley, the people have shown that when given the choice, they choose CCM. Well, how are you going to vex with me for that? What it says to me is that you have had no appeal to the people of Nevis. That's why so many of them have come and gone. Since I have been leader of CCM, it's 3 leaders. NRP already had and left, and now they're on their foot. CCM has been in the retiring business. We retire these fellas on a regular basis because the people have demonstrated that when they look at the candidates, they look at the parties, they prefer the Concerned Citizens Movement. It's not me saying it, you know. That's what the history and the statistics and the evidence says. From 1992 until now. How many years is that? 34 years. The NRP has won 1 election in 34 years. 1. You can't count 2011 because that one was stolen. And the evidence shows that that was stolen. And the High Court and Court of Appeal found that it was stolen, declared it null and void. 1 in 34 years. That's it. So that tells you that the people of Nevis have consistently said that we prefer the ideas, the individuals. We think that Mark Brantley, we think that Eric Evelyn, we think that Spencer Brand, we think that Vance and Malcolm and Jean and all who would have served, we think that they have something that is called integrity. They have something that is called love of country. They have something that is called ideas and a passion to advance this island called Nevis. The people have said that because in this country we have free and fair elections. Except 2011. That one we'll have to put an asterisk next to because that one was stolen. But the people have consistently said, listen, this is the team that we want. 34 years. I can't even count the number of elections. I know for my part, I went to the polls for the first time in 2007. Then I went back in 2010. 2011, but that one you got to put to one side. 2013, 15, 17, 20, and twice in 2022. 9 elections. And in 9 elections over a period now of 20 years, the people of St. John's, my beloved St. John's, and the people of St. John's and St. Paul's, my beloved St. Paul's, have said, Mark Brantley, you are the person we trust. You are the one that we want to lead us. Along the way, I came up against Hensley Daniel so many times that he retired hurt. The same boy, the Kelvin Daly of CFBC fame, one try he retired hurt. Hector Roberto Hector, El Hansville Hector, one time he retired hurt. Who else? Patricia Bartlett, she came twice. I hear she's now being retired as well because they're looking for alternatives. I can't remember who else. But everybody who comes, the people have consistently said, not you, we want to go with this young man. Well, it is a democracy, you know. No, you can't beat me at the ballot. You have these buffoons calling in the radio station to talk about violence. People like me need to be shot. The island needs guns and a revolution. And this latest missive that we need to be put in front of a firing squad. What is our sin? That the people of Nevis prefer CCM. Now, if I were the NRP, I would say, listen, if we've been cussing for 34 years and it not help us, maybe what we need to do is get rid of the cussers, you know. All this donkey story we got on radio. And get some sensible people who come now to talk about issues. There's a cost of living crisis that is looming with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz caused by the war in Iran. How are we going to deal with that? How are we going to develop the infrastructure of the country? How are we going to create jobs for those 300 youngsters that come out of sixth form and college each year? These are real questions. How are we going to take care of our elderly? Make sure that our people have adequate health care. How are we going to pay for it? These are important questions. None of those questions is solved by cussing somebody. None of them can be solved by violence or threats of violence. And I don't even know why they try to threaten me, because I'm telling you now, they say you must fear God, and I fear God, but I don't fear any man. I don't fear any man, and you know why I don't fear any man? Because my heart is pure. I don't trouble people. And when you don't trouble people, you don't have to be afraid of anybody, because you know you have not done anything to anybody. And so if my sin and the thing that has the NRP threatening violence against me and my team is that we win elections, then I suggest to them that they find a strategy to go out and talk to the people of Nevis about what they can do for them. How they can move Nevis forward. Because the people of Nevis tired here cussing. They're tired hear the negativity every day, all day. People driving on brand new road, you tell them nothing happening. People working 2 and 3 jobs if they want to, you tell them there's no employment in the country. People go there and use the water taxi, you tell them the water taxi no finish. They run on the Mondo track, you tell them the Mondo track no finish. The progress is all around us. All around us. You don't believe me? Go down there to the MGR Park. Take a book. Take your little easy chair and relax yourself. When you finish with that, walk along the boardwalk all the way down to Pinnis Beach. Take a swim. When you finish with that, you go to the changing rooms and bathrooms. They're immaculate. You change. Then you choose one of maybe 8 or 9 restaurants. You determine what kind of food you want today. You want seafood? You want Chinese food? You want Some kind of Asian fusion? You feel like a steak? You want some local food by weekends? What do you want today? All of that available. And people go and enjoy it every day and they say nothing is happening. People aren't stupid. People aren't foolish. People can see, feel, and touch. And when all you have to offer people is your negativity, because that's all you bring, no ideas. Men who are sitting down, who are already approaching the biblical limit of 70, and still in this, the winter of their years, using whatever they have left to spew vitriol. At my age now, I am already looking to clear the way for the next generation to come. These fellas are a generation ahead of me and fighting with me. When I still at my age have the vim, vigor and vitality to stand up strong and to come here and speak strong. Hear that? Vim, vigor, vitality. And so I look at these things and I say, well, what is it that these people want? What it is about Nevis and about government that they're so hungry for that they will even preach violence against others in order to get it? What? And I'm speaking this way. You see, I went from the international scene to the local scene because it's the same ideology that you see playing out. People who covet power, people who covet what somebody else has. You want this country's oil or this country's gold. In this case, they covet government, whatever, I suppose, power they perceive government has. And if their first and only term in 34 years is any indicator, they covet the treasury. Some used to say people have snout in the trough. These NRP fellas want to put in their whole body. Their whole body. What they can absorb through their mouth and their nose, they want to absorb it through their skin. Whole body. That's what they covet. And I have no difficulty if that is what you covet, but if you covet it, go out there and work for it. Go out there and present your plan. You can't come to the people of Nevis in an election with no manifesto. If you don't come with a manifesto, it means you have no ideas for them. You run an entire election, and you know what the election was? Get rid of them. We're fed up of them. Alright? So when you don't get rid of them because you're fed up of them, what next? You get rid of them, you're fed up of them. How does that help education? Healthcare. The growing demand for homes for our young people. Get rid of them, we're fed up of them. How does it fix a road? Create opportunity, create jobs. No ideas, and I want the people of Nevis to start to think about these things. Can anybody come to you and say, I want you to vote for me, and you ask them why, and you say, I'm fed up of them, get rid of them. Okay, that's a reason to vote for you? It has to be more than that. You must be able to come and articulate a vision for the people of Nevis. You must be able to come and say, this is where we want to take this land that we say we love. Not to destroy it, not to preach violence against people. And that is the thing. They're frustrated. They're vexed and they're angry. Because they keep coming and saying to the people of Nevis, give us Nevis. And the people of Nevis keep telling them, we don't trust you. We don't think you have the integrity. We don't think you have the ideas. We don't think you have the love and the patriotism. We will not give you Nevis. And that is why they're preaching violence now. They want to put people in front of firing squad. They're saying people should be shot. But I'm here to tell all of you that me not afraid of soul. I say it in a runny vision way so you understand and mean it. Me not afraid a soul. And none of you are going to deter me from doing the best I can for the people of this island called Nevis. With my navel string berry, me ain't bang no water to come here. I wasn't born elsewhere and come here as a youth. I was born here. I grew up here. My navel string berry here. I want you to understand that I refuse to be intimidated or to be cowed in any way. And so appreciate that. But I want the people of Nevis to be cognizant of what is happening. I want the people of Nevis to hear the things that are being said, all in the name of a lust for power. And around the world, the story is the same. When you have no ideas, you have no plans, you have no way of appealing to the people, you resort to force and violence. Well, that is not democracy. So I suggest to those who can't seem to appeal to the people of Nevis, check yourself. Check what you're doing that's wrong. Check yourself. Maybe if you stop cussing the people so much. Maybe when you set the doctors up at the hospital using Google to treat people. Maybe forget that all of those doctors have families, you know, who are proud of them. Maybe forget that those doctors in the main came from poor families, were educated through scholarships, and have come back to this, the land of their birth, to make their contribution. Maybe you forget how proud communities are of our young people when they excel. So when you attack the young doctors up at the hospital and suggest they don't know what they're doing, well, you don't think that their families get upset by that? You don't think the communities and the church that they go to, their friends, get upset by that? You alienate people because of this constant stream of negativity and cussing. I hear you all even cuss your own supporters. All you need to do is say something that someone of these buffoons doesn't agree with, and they turn up on you like a dose of salts. Cuss, 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 cuss. The NRP has a PhD in cussing. But when it comes to ideas for developing Nevis, fail. Love of Nevis, fail. Appeal to the voters, fail. Integrity, trust, patriotism, fail, fail, fail. Cuss, A+, PhD. Let's open the phones and take some calls. We got 5 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock, and we're here until 10. There's a lot that we can talk about, but I'll give the public now an opportunity to weigh in on anything that I've raised or on anything that they wish to raise. And lest I be misunderstood, I am simply saying that we need in our political discourse to put violence to one side. We need in our political discourse to be able to discuss ideas and to debate which idea is the better idea for the advancement of this land called Nevis. Let's go to the phones and take our first call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Hello? Hello? I'm not hearing the caller. Caller, are you there? Hello? I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm not hearing the caller. Perhaps we can ask the caller if you can call back in. Hello? I'm not hearing the call at all. So let's try to see if we can get another call in. I hope that we can get this resolved, because otherwise I'd be here for 2 hours talking to myself. So I'm hopeful that we can get the phone system worked out. All right. I think the phones are connected now. Is the caller still there? Okay, the caller is gone. Caller, please call back in. We've resolved the issue, I believe. So if you can call back in, we'll get you on the air right away. I do apologize. Let's try this now. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Honorable.
Good evening to you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Good to hear you.
Yeah, man, it is so shame to, as you saying, some adults, old guys, older guys, creating these issues, and what example they're telling the youngsters about violence. And when the same youngsters them creating the violence, they want to blame them.
Mm-hmm.
Where they is the one who created it. It is really shameful to hear these kind of things. With every island now facing these crime with guns and these things. And I agree with what you said, that talk and speak to the people then. And these guys shouldn't be creating these talk shows, which I said that a premier, these radio station who own these radio stations should be responsible for these kind of things, because selling violence is not the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's to me. I have to say good night to Scarborough, the man who do the best boat water. When I visit Nevis, good night to you. But Honorable, it really shameful. And some of these talk shows where people creating violence, and which you want to be able to walk the street properly. And when they're creating this kind of thing, themselves have to frighten too. With these young guys who every minute you're hearing shooting here and shooting there. And you should know better. As you said, this one in the church. For example, he showing when he in the church, he preaching to people. No example at all. You know what I mean? So I like your style of showing them that you honest, and I don't know how come you put in law with this kind of behavior and advertising violence at all, because other places wouldn't uphold those kind of things, and they put some kind of restriction on some of these talk shows, and you is not doing it. You know, because these things have to stop. You can't have these guys on these talk shows condoling these things. We ain't custom to that. I want to know when they come to Nevis, they walk free. And if I hearing gunshots and stuff firing, and I can't come up there and visit at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I listen to the program, which thank you for the time, and good night to all the listeners. So, again.
All right, my brother. Well, thank you very much, and I agree with you. Let's not open that Pandora's box, because I said where things start is not where they end. Let me go back to the phones and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening.
Good evening, my dear.
It's not working. That's what happened.
Oh, okay.
Proverbs
we can hear you now, though.
15 verse 13 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken. The heart of him that has understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness. Have a good evening.
Thank you very, very much for that. Very timely. Let's stick with the telephones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello.
Good night to the Honorable Premier Mark Brantley. Good night.
Good evening. You're on the mark. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm here listening to you, and I myself can't to the last call, that first caller. I don't believe in ignorance. I believe that when you go to encourage people to go, if you against what a government is doing, somebody in your constituency is doing, encourage the people them to go to the poll and vote out that person, not to cause no violence. You understand? We live in a small country. We see much war going on in different part of the world right now. We ain't condoning those things, Mark. And Mark, and next thing again, I see that election coming up soon. I don't know. It looks like the bell ringing soon. I see billboards going up different places. Down here in number 3, I see something up, but I ain't see nothing by them. I just see the frame up. And I made to understand the election will call in October. That's my month.
That's your month?
Yes, October the 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Mark, let me tell you something. I hope the people of this think it, especially how we are going on. Because, Mark, election for 4 years, the Labour Party in government. And I ain't see nothing, especially in agriculture. We ain't see nothing at all. I can't say about Nevis. I ain't live in Nevis, I live down here. Right? I come to Nevis really. But I discuss with other people up here who farm too. Because when I butcher is up there, sell my meat.
Okay,
Right? Yeah, when I butcher my animals, I is up there, sell my meat to the abattoir up here. So, Mark, let me tell you something, nothing is doing now. And I want petition to we are going on in this country with the Labour administration. Mark, I telling you plain, things ain't looking good. They're saying that PAM no have nobody, PLP no have nobody. But listen, you're going to think because PLP and PAM no have nobody. When they put up a candidate to vote in the constituency, you ain't go out and vote for that person. You understand? Mark, let me tell you something, right? Even if you pick up, I believe even if you pick up some man from off the road and bring them to even me, to put me number 3 or number 4 or number 8 or one of them go on. I believe that the performance of Dr. Joe and the Labour Party government, I believe they're supposed to get out of government. Vote them out. They're telling too much lies. Mark, I listen to you very carefully on Wednesday night. Sometimes I don't call in every time. And to me, you ain't a make-up politician. Some of these guys is make-up politicians. They're nothing but politics. You just come with the talk. Blowing at you, you're talking about new hospital. You're talking about new hospital. Up to now, they can't get this one control up there, Joseph, you know, because every minute people go up there, people complaining with the situation at the Joseph Conference Hospital. You understand? No good medical treatment, no good attention up there. When you go there, you go spend hours, and they're going to build a new hospital. He's talking about new hospital. But you know what Dr. Joe wanted? Dr. Joe wanted to show Dr. Douglas that he was there for 20 years. And he just come there for 5 years and build a brand new hospital. And everything out of mouth, this never happened yet and that never happened yet. Like, look at the peace program. The peace program was doing so well. A lot of young man down here, I know playing, got business out of the peace program under the unity administration, Mark. A lot of young men do their own business. Doing their own entrepreneur down here. We need out of the peace program. But he going, that's why you see things backfiring from this country now because too much a lie. Because let me tell you something. When he get in, because the crime is up, what he trying to do now? He trying to say that because of the Labour government get in now, the crime is up and it happened because of that. You understand? Man, we got to be real. And we got to give government when they make credit, Joe. Mark, you ever give the NRP any credit yet since they're in government? Since when they was in government, you ever give them any credit any project they're doing here yet?
Yes.
But that is the way it's supposed to go. Not criticize everything. They criticize Port Dante when Port Dante was building under the Dr. Simmons administration. They criticize the Southeast Peninsula. And that is the backbone and the breadfruit thinkers now, Mark. Mark, we got to be real, and I want to think it and think it, people, wake up. And those in the diaspora, wake up. Because we are looking good and treating us good down here. As far as you're concerned, Mark. And
So-
Mark, let me tell you something. I listen to the program and I don't hear nobody call if I'm with criticize you and say that you're doing this or you're doing that. Only a few people calling because if you wasn't doing good as they say, then they're calling to your program and challenge you. But nobody calling and challenge you. Mark, you're on the phone. Don't give somebody a chance.
All right. Thank you very much for your call. Let's stick with the phones. The phones are lighting up, so we're trying to get as many people in as we can. And say, good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Hello, good evening, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So, I'm calling on behalf of the young people in Nevis, and it was brought to my attention that the airport project is on stall because the federal government aimed signing the guarantee for the loan, which was approved by the Taiwanese already. Is that so?
Well, I can't say that they're not signing it. They have not signed it yet. I remain hopeful that they will. I have been having some conversations with the Honorable Prime Minister on that matter. The issue has to do with the debt to GDP ratio, and the sense that I get is that the federal government is concerned that if they were to guarantee that loan, which is for $20 million, that would put them at risk of going over the 60%, I think, debt to GDP ratio. The reality, however, is, and the point that we have been making is, one, it's not in that sense a debt because, of course, the taxpayers of St. Kitts are not being asked to pay back anything on behalf of Nevis. The responsibility is the responsibility of Nevis. We are only required to get a guarantee because Nevis is not its own country. And under the constitutional construct, the sovereign is the federal government, not the NIA. So in many of these things, whether it's geothermal or whether it's a Taiwanese loan, governments or multilateral institutions that are lending money to Nevis, understanding that Nevis has to pay it back, but they require that the federal government sign off simply because the federal government is the sovereign. They are the entity that is recognized internationally, not the NIA. So
Right.
it's almost a situation where you go to borrow something to build a house or to start a business. The bank knows that you're responsible for paying them back, but the bank said to you, well, could you bring somebody to act as the guarantor? And so the way that the accounting is done, the guarantor must count it as a debt, even though the primary responsibility for repayment falls on the actual borrower, which in this case would be Nevis. So we have negotiated with the Taiwanese. We have secured the $20 million, and the holdup now is, in fact, that guarantee. But,
Right.
as I said, I would not say it is not forthcoming. I would say it's not forthcoming yet because I remain hopeful that the good sense of the airport in Nevis being developed and adding to what is offered at RLB, that the entire country will benefit from that.
I understand, but we can't hold up development for St. Kitts. So why St. Kitts can hold up development for Nevis?
Well, as
Prime
I...
Minister, you must know that and understand that young people here in Nevis waiting for this development. People buying trucks, people bringing in equipment, and young boys want jobs so bad, desperately for jobs, and it's like pan stall. Young people need to know about these development opportunities from start to end to the project them. I mean, I don't understand this because, like, enough revenue will be generated to pay back for our airport, right?
Absolutely.
Young people are ready. We be ready for this project. Like, we really ready to make this money, and everybody gonna benefit from it.
Well, that's what I think in the whole country, because if,
not supposed to be waiting for
I mean, even in terms of tourism, you look at the fact that a lot of people say that they don't come
Exactly.
because of how difficult it is to get here.
every other island out there building and expanding the airport, and so we're nothing to Nevis. Nevis mustn't get nothing.
Well, as I said, I am still very optimistic that this will happen. I think that once the last conversation I had with the Honorable Prime Minister, the two financial secretaries
Please
were
speak
to meet.
louder, please, because
I said
I'm hearing
the last conversation I had
Right.
with the Honorable Prime Minister,
right.
the two prominent secretaries of finance are to meet to work out this matter. So I am still very optimistic that this matter will be dealt with and that the airport project can proceed. All right?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're most welcome. We're taking
Alright,
calls.
yeah.
869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call. We are now at 12 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. And we know we go to 10. And once we get to 10, that's the end of the show. So let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello?
Yes, good night,
yes,
Honorable Brantley.
You're on the air.
How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I must welcome you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. I'm going to read Ephesians chapter 6, and I'm reading 6 verses. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Let me hold on there, please. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, to singleness of your heart, as unto Christ, not with eye service, as men pleasers, but as the servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart. That's the reading of the scripture, the end of the scripture. Do have a good night, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the scripture as well. You're our second scripture reader tonight, and I appreciate both of you very much. You both tend to call, and your scripture of your choosing tends to lift the show and lift everybody listening. So we're grateful to you for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We continue to take your calls, 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. It is true, the caller previously spoke about elections and elections being in the air. One gets the feeling that things are percolating. Of course, the current term of the government doesn't expire until the middle of next year. So in truth, they have probably another year and a half or thereabouts. So it is not that there's any rush, but one does get the sense that something is percolating, the kettle is boiling, and so it behooves those out there to get themselves sorted, get their candidates ready, etc. I can say that the Concerned Citizens Movement is always in a state of readiness. After every election, we put Big Blue in the shop, and I could tell you that Big Blue has a fresh coat of paint. The engine is oiled and cranked and ready to go. And as soon as they say, on your mark, we will be ready. So I have no fear at all where the CCM is concerned. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening, you're on the air.
Yes. I would just like to deal with something that you said in your soliloquy. Where you said you listened to a clip with the opposition radio talk show. Someone called in and made some statements. I do not agree with that.
You do not agree with what?
I do not agree with the kind of statements.
Okay. Got you. Got you.
I would go on to tell you that you, as Premier of Nevis, on your show here, calling fellow Nevisians buffoons and idiots is unbecoming.
Yes.
I will tell you this. I would like to see where there becomes a calm in the political rhetoric in this country. Cussing each other and that kind of thing, right? I mean, I hear you accusing them of cussing. You do your share cussing too. I think you should take the high road, lead the way, leave the cussing alone, and work on moving this country forward.
Caller, let me ask you, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So if somebody calls in the radio station to say that you, caller, and your colleagues should be shot by a firing squad. You don't think that that's an idiotic statement to make?
No.
You don't?
Listen, even if I thought it was an idiotic statement to make,
yes,
I would not lower myself to that.
I see. So what kind of statement? How would you describe the statement?
What statement?
I just said somebody called in the radio station and said that you and your colleagues should be shot by firing squad. How do you characterize that statement? What word would you use?
I don't particularly know that I would be paying any attention to that. I know myself.
You wouldn't pay any attention to somebody saying you should be shot?
No, I won't.
See. Okay.
I know myself.
Okay.
And I do not subscribe to that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, caller.
Second thing.
Yes,
second thing I'd like to know, Mr. Brantley.
Mm-hmm.
On government roads below the hospital, I see some work going on there. I'm at a loss as to what's going on there. It looks to me like it's on government property, people's property, and it looks to me like something to do with the people. I haven't heard anything. Was there an announcement as to what's going on there?
No, caller, there was no announcement yet because we are not yet in a position to make an announcement. When we get to that position, you can be assured, as with everything else that this government does, that we will make an announcement. We are lining up our ducks, and then we will make an announcement on that.
But Mr. Brantley, work's going full speed ahead.
Well, works are happening, yes, but I'm saying that you give us the opportunity, caller, to make an announcement on a timing that the government thinks it's wise. That's why we are government. We are asked to run the island and to make certain decisions, and so we will make an announcement. I'm simply saying to you that not everything is in place yet for that announcement.
Okay.
That's
We're
all.
having a conversation.
Yes. No, we're having a comment, but I'm trying to respond to you, to just tell you, give us the opportunity, an announcement will come.
Mr. Brantley, please allow me. Here is where I'm going with this.
Yes.
Is that you are not in a position to make an announcement. And it has been your style of operation to go ahead, do things, leave divisions to wander.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people start speculating, you said that people listening to other people, well, they're not hearing anything from you.
Yes.
In the absence of information,
Mm-hmm.
anything goes.
Okay, well, if you want to...
I would like you to take that into consideration.
Yes, but if you want to go down that road, that's a matter for you. I have answered you and I've said to you that at the appropriate time an announcement will be made. It looks to me like you want to dictate when the announcement is made. I'm not saying that the information will not be provided, you know. I'm simply saying to you that please give us the opportunity to make it in the orderly fashion that we plan to make it in. I don't see that as being anything that one ought to be upset about.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not even upset about anything.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because, you see me, I don't like to make up my mind for myself. And the information that I am hearing is that it's a renal unit. And it leaves me to wonder, if that is a renal unit, where is the money coming from? Because you said, came from your mouth that you have no money. Government have no money. And it leaves me thinking, I hope that you're not doing backdoor, well, you say you don't do on the table deal, but I hope you're not doing any backdoor deal with Destiny to commit the people of Nevis. I'm just saying up front, because afterthoughts and afters don't work well. I'm just saying.
Well, caller, thanks for just saying. My response is the same. We will make an announcement at the appropriate time.
Okay.
All right?
I have another question, but I'll come back later.
Okay. All right. That sometimes is what happens. I think that public and, you know, conversations happen. People start to say what they want to say. But I think that caller and the public generally, governments function in particular ways. And sometimes one aspect of something is settled, other aspects are being worked through, and it is premature to come out and make an announcement. There's no need to get into any big speculation. Caller, I will say this to you. And you say you may call back in, so I challenge you and anybody else out there. You say, I tend to do things and explain after. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I really don't know what you're talking about. I know that you have been a vocal opponent of the proposed Destiny project, and maybe that is what you're alluding to, but I keep reminding you and everybody else that no project in the history of Nevis has had as much consultation as the Destiny project. None. And we've done a lot of projects in Nevis. We've done major projects. This government has done projects, whether it's the Mondo Track, whether it's the Newcastle Police Station, whether it's the Wally Water Facility. We've done countless projects, what I would call big projects in Nevis. And I wouldn't accept at all your suggestion that as a leader of Nevis, I am somehow in the business of hiding things or coming after the fact to tell people things. That has not been my style of leadership. All I'm saying, if you see some work going on, give the government the opportunity, the courtesy to make an announcement at the appropriate time. That is all I'm saying to you. You went off with a whole heap of what if and this might be that and deal and all kind of comments you have to make. And all I'm saying to you is the same response. Give the government the opportunity to make an announcement at the appropriate time. What is so difficult or so unusual or so strange about that? And I think that is part of what we have to, as a government and a people, we have to understand that we have to give those whom we have elected to serve the opportunity to do what we elected them to do. We have to give them that opportunity. You have an opportunity that will come again. If you're not satisfied with how they've done what they've done or with what they've done, then you will have an opportunity again. That's how democracy works. And so I just want our people to be less anxious and agitated, because this government, caller, and as the leader of this island since 2017 December, I can manfully stand up before you, before anybody else. I'll use the expression that I think was attributed to Lee Moore of blessed memory. Before God and man, my hands are clean. And I have no problem and no water in my mouth saying so. One of the things that I prided myself on as the premier of this island here called Nevis, and prided myself on as the head of an administration, there has never been any suggestion in my government of anything untoward. A lot of chat out there, people say all kind of craziness, but never. We have been free of any of those types of allegations. And so when I say I don't do deal under the table, it's because my record demonstrates that I don't do deals under the table. So, Call, I think we have a record that speaks for itself, a record of integrity. We introduced integrity in public life. When others went into parliament and said you can't legislate integrity, we introduced it. In fact, even before Sinkits had it, we had it in Nevis. I am here every Wednesday to take your calls and anybody else's. I have not hidden myself away. And no matter how sometimes the fire is hot and the bowling is hostile, I am here and I come back the next week. If I get pung up and bruised up, I take them and I come back the next week, because that's what people who are committed to the task at hand, committed to service, committed to their country, that's what they do. I don't expect you and others to agree with everything that I say or with everything that I do. But please be assured that when I say something and when I do something, it is motivated from one thing and one thing only, and that is my love of Nevis and my desire to see Nevis move forward. Of that you can be sure. Let's go back to the phones. We have the phones ringing out. Let's try this caller. Caller, it's 26 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. You're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good night to you. You're close to a radio or something. We have an echo.
Okay.
Could turn it off or move away from it, please.
Okay. Sorry about that. Just trying to find out about the airport. Anything further than all what we've been hearing before? Any latest development?
I think that the airport project, we have had one slight hold up, and that has to do with a guarantee. We got a loan, so we have the money for what we're calling the airport side. What, Lord, how do I explain it now? Where the plane's going to land and all of that, right? The aerodrome, I think they call that. We have the money for that. The money now for the relocation of the Island Main Road and the landward side, that is now the expansion of the terminal, the cargo shed, etc. That money, we had negotiated a facility with the Taiwanese government of $20 million US, and that facility needs a guarantee from the federal government, because the Taiwanese government, whilst they deal with us, when it comes now to the dotted line, they need the federal government sign off, and that's what the previous caller spoke about, that we are still in discussions with the federal government on getting that guarantee. But the Taiwanese have said that they're minded to offer that financing to advance this project in Nevis. Okay. So that really at this stage is the only hold up. We're trying to work things through. As I reported, the last conversation I had with the Honorable Prime Minister on the matter, he asked that the Financial Secretary in Nevis and the Financial Secretary in St. Kitts meet to work that issue out, and I'm optimistic that that matter will be resolved and that we'll be able to move on. Now that is on the, as I said, the landward side. The side now to the on the aerodrome side, where the plane is going to land, the runway and all that, that's pretty much ready to go. We have one little hold up, and that is the land, you know, where people now would park just before the planes land, touchdown. There's an open area there. Caller? Okay.
Yes.
You're listening? Yeah, I'm asking, you're aware of that little open area of land? Sometimes vehicles are parked there in the afternoons.
Sure.
The plane, yeah. Right. So that little area of land that's owned by a family out there in the area, and we have been trying our very best to negotiate with them on that small plot. I think it's just over an acre. That has not gone smoothly, but we are still optimistic that that could be resolved. But the truth be told, that we are, I would say we are 90% there in terms of being in a position to start this project. You will see that there are some other things happening. For example, we have already set up offices and all that is being cleared up and resolved. And so I anticipate that we're going to be able to move on that fairly quickly. I could tell you that the financiers on the aerodrome side, they keep asking when we're going to start, because they're ready to go. So we just have those two little niggling issues that we're hopeful we can get resolved very soon.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're most welcome.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Good. Let's go back to the phones. It's 9:30. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good night again, Mark. Good night.
Yes, good evening, brother.
Mark, as a cabinet member and a member of parliament and the Premier of Nevis, how perfect this integrity in public life the work? Because you hear a lot of things happening, especially with our CBI money. Money went this way, money went that way. Money went to different, like, not what the place name again? Jack Marriott. Money went into Christopher Harbour and all those things. So we want to know how perfect this integrity the work. And you see some of these politicians with these high, building, doing all kind of things. So I want to know really who in charge of integrity and how perfect this integrity does really work. Because as far as I concerned, this integrity only there to cover up the thing, because nobody gonna come out and say nothing about who gonna do this and who gonna do that. Because all of them gonna do the same thing.
Yeah, well,
so Mark, let me know how before I get off the line.
Well, caller, the Integrity in Public Life legislation is designed in a particular way. What it requires is that certain people, categories of persons, ministers, heads of departments, permanent secretaries, heads of statutory corporations, board members of statutory corporations, etc., people in public life, that they must file each year with the Integrity Commission a complete list of their assets and liabilities. And
if any complaint that with the ministers or somebody in public life doing whatever, who that will go to?
No, that is not the integrity. They see that sometimes people confuse that. There is an office referred to as the Office of the Ombudsman, where you can take complaints if you feel you're not being treated properly or something of that nature. If you feel that there is evidence of fraud or wrongdoing or theft or something of that nature, then certainly that's a matter that you should refer to the police, and ultimately the Director of Public Prosecutions should deal with that matter. What the Integrity in Public Life Act seeks to do is to create a framework where people in public life, in the categories that are identified in the law, have to make a filing of their assets and liabilities each year. And so, for example, if you are the foreign minister, and you last year when you filed, you had a house and you had a car. And this year when you file, or 2 years later when you file, you have 4 homes and 6 cars. Then the commissioners can determine that they want to do an investigation.
Investigation, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? And if they determine they want to do an investigation, then they have certain powers under the legislation. But some people feel that, oh, I think this minister thief, so let me go and say it to the Integrity Commission. The Integrity Commission is not the police. The Integrity Commission...
So if they find them in any file, that could go to the court?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then they could refer matters to the DPP and to the police for charges, etc. Right? But the commissioner could make them stand down to step down from the post or whatsoever. Well,
if they find them in the file?
The legislation doesn't provide that authority that they're asked to step down, for example, to step down as a minister. But obviously the expectation would be that if the Integrity Commission were to say, Foreign Minister, Premier, whoever, we have a problem here because last year you had a house and a car. This year you got 4 homes and 6 cars. Based on your salary, based on your debts, etc., we don't see how you could afford that. So we're going to do an investigation. When they do the investigation, now they find out that that individual has been stealing or getting kickbacks or whatever, then they could refer those matters now for prosecution. No.
Mark, I want to ask you a question again. Yeah, I understand that. I want to ask you a question before we go. Do you think it is right to when an election comes, Joe, that parties start to give out money, give out stipend, give out this and give out that to people, give out fridge and all those things? Do you think that is right?
I do not think it is right, and I will go further and tell you that the law forbids it, because the law is clear that there is something called cheating, there's bribery, there are all of these things that are election offenses for which you could be charged and prosecuted. So,
Mark, last election I sit down with me one, you know. I see ministers of government, father, family members, giving out money, calling people aside and giving them money. Mark, that's why the situation down here like this, you know. Because maybe these politicians tell them they don't pay the people them for the vote. So they don't have an obligation to whether give them this or give them that or whatever.
But Carla, let me ask you something.
Yes.
If you're a voter, right? And I gave you $500 and tell you vote for me.
Yeah.
What guarantee do I have that you would vote for me? Because when you're going to vote, you're voting privately.
I know that, Mark. I know that.
So now I say that to say this, that a lot of times people get caught up about bribery and paying people for their vote and all kind of things. But the truth of the matter is that when somebody goes into that polling station to vote, only them and God know who they vote for. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't get all caught up. I encourage people not to get caught up in that, but I don't get caught up in it because at the end of the day, you go out there and you try to appeal to people. People vote for you if they like you and if they like your ideas and they like the things that you have to
But
say
that
about what you're going to do.
It's supposed to be.
Right? But
You're
that,
supposed
that,
to perform with the people.
but that ultimately is what it
You're
is.
supposed to perform.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So when the election call, maybe the 5 years, you see what the government has done for the people of the country. You see what the candidates do for the people in your constituency. And you elect back in. But listen, it ain't happening yet all, and it's getting worse and worse. Every election is getting worse and worse, Mark. This thing getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And listen, this ain't help. Listen, Mark, I started to vote 1984. That's the first time I ever voted. And I never get a cent from the politician yet to vote. I vote on the performance of whoever going to represent me or whoever going to run the country as the Prime Minister. Anyway, Mark, you have a wonderful night. May God bless and keep you.
All right.
And I wish you all the best in the election coming up.
Same to you, brother.
Maybe you might be our next Prime Minister.
Well, the election, if the election is on your birthday, maybe I'm lucky.
Maybe. Okay, all right, okay.
All right, take care. All right, let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Thank you, caller. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello, caller, you're on the mark.
Hey, good evening, Mark. Couple callers ago, you mentioned projects and you were talking about the Mondo track.
Yes.
I could tell you that Mondo track has been getting good use to the point where there's some repairs that need to be done to the track itself.
Yes, we're aware of that.
And I've got more use for it because I want to alert the Division public and our brothers and sisters in St. that this coming Sunday, the 26th of April, we're going to be having the A1 Farm 5-Star Parish Relay Championship, and that kicks off at 1:30 p.m. And I'm hopeful, Mark, that we could wrap it all up by 8 o'clock so that the younger children could get home and get ready for school on Monday. Exciting relay competition. We have races such as the 4x1, 4x2s, 4x4, mixed relays. And we've got categories of, we start with the youth, under 11, under 13, under 15, under 18, and we have something for the adults as well, 18 plus. Now, this is a whole community affair because we're running not schools, but parishes. So St. Paul's will come up against St. John's, against St. Thomas's, and so on. But I just want to take a second, if you would allow me, to say that this is a huge undertaking because we are engaging the entire Division public. Mm-hmm. And so A1 Farms and those associated with A1 Farms really couldn't do it. We couldn't do it by ourselves. And so I want to say thanks to our parish sponsors and the parish coaches. If you would allow me, I feel obligated to mention them. And I would tell you that the St. James Tigers, the head coach over there is Sherman Keynes, and 3 businesses in St. James, Ex-Petrol, the Finnish Touch, and the Islander Water Sports joined together to sponsor that parish. We move over now to St. Thomas's, and the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank stepped up to the plate and they sponsor the St. Thomas's parish. We move into St. Paul's, and the Bank of Nevis Limited has stepped up. St. Peel is the head coach there. I forgot to mention that Tricia Williams is looking after the athletes in St. Thomas's. Up to St. John's, they are, and it's noteworthy that they are the champions in 2 years running now, and this is the 3rd year, so they're the team to beat. And they're sponsored by SL Hosford's group of companies and Carib Breweries. Kel Williams is the head coach there. Up to St. George Gingerland, the Nevis Cooperative Credit Union Limited has stepped up, and the head coach there is Youth in Library. Now, we've got 2 new sponsors this year, event sponsors, Clive Evelyn Construction and Orange Enterprises. The meet itself, there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle, and really have to say a big thank you to all the head coaches, the parents, the athletes, all the volunteers. There are many, and the general public for supporting this venture over the past 2 years. It's all about the kids, and this is the 3rd year running, and it's getting bigger and better. So Brantley, I just want to thank you for the time and to say, come out and support on Sunday. We've got early bird special going right now on the tickets, and we've got some fun shirts as well. So it's a good community event, and thanks for the time and for the support.
Thank you very, very much, brother, and thank you for all that you're doing. I know you are a major, major contributor to athletics, to the point where you're now, putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak, and having this event in the name of A1 Farms. I want to thank you for your own contribution and what you have been doing and what you continue to do. I think these relays are growing, and the fact that you say it's now into multiple years of having it at the Mondo track there. I'm very happy that you said St. John's are the defending 2 Peters. How many years the event has been going now?
This is the 3rd year.
3rd year, okay.
Yeah.
So St. John's, we tend to like to lead in St. John's, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm happy to hear that. So congratulations to you as well, and I encourage everybody to come out. Just tell us again before you go what the date is and what time it starts.
Sunday, 26th. We kick off at 1:30, and I'm hopeful that we could wrap up all these exciting relays by 8 o'clock so that the younger kids could get home and get ready for bed and wake up fresh and energized and ready to go Monday morning.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a very good show tonight. All the callers have been great, and we have about 17 or so minutes left. And so we invite you to call in at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700 if you want to be a part of this show this evening. While that caller was on the line, I also checked out Facebook, and there is a lot of activity there as well, people commenting back and forth. I want to thank our NRP supporters in particular. They are very, very good listeners of the show. They come out in their numbers each week, and I thank them for their listenership and their engagement. Mostly negative, but nevertheless, they're here, they're paying attention, and I'm grateful for that. So this show clearly reaches everyone, and that's the point of the show, that we reach everyone, we have that conversation with everyone. And based on the comments that I've seen, some comments that I've also been receiving on WhatsApp, I think that people are really outraged at this idea of violence getting into our body politic, and are really asking that this be stopped. And I agree. There's a very thin line between freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and when it gets to a point where it is no longer free. And so I urge all of us who are responsible people to act responsibly. And where people call in and they have that kind of rhetoric, you cut them off, you tell them, no, this is not the place, there's no room in Nevis and in our politics for that. And as I said, I believe that this is coming from a place of people who are accustomed to losing. And when you're accustomed to losing elections, you start to get to a point now where you're looking for other ways and means to force yourself on the people. And that is, I think, a bad scenario. And so I encourage all political parties and all politicians, those who are in it, those who are aspiring to be in it, come with your ideas. Ultimately, that's what matters most. Let's go back to the phones. We have 15 minutes. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hey, good morning, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
I tell LRP, they can't get back here.
Mm-hmm.
This is situation. Yeah?
Yes, brother, I hear you.
Yeah, this Pucci, hello.
Yes, Pucci, how you doing?
Hey, I want to hear up the boys in America. Now, and ISIS, I done.
All right, brother. All right. Thank you. Poochie Eyeball say, and I think I get back in there. And I agree with Poochie. You know, everybody understands that that is just the situation. And people really are looking for leadership that is progressive, leadership that can take us forward, and leadership that is prepared to stand up and stand firm. You know, sometimes the winds are going to blow hard. Sometimes tragedy will strike. Sometimes the pandemic will come. Sometimes the forces arrayed are great. But you need leadership that is strong, that is fearless, that is brave, and that is committed to the island of Nevis. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Blessed night, brother Premier.
Yes, good evening to you, brother.
How your day was?
I'm good. My day was good, thank you. How was yours?
Thankful for the love of the Almighty. I give thanks for the day. It was very joyful and it was very impactful. So we give thanks for how things flow with the love of the Almighty. Just something I would like to ask for, and blessed night to your listeners for your radio and internet, and you call it social media, YouTube and Facebook. I just say Facebook. Just like to ask something here. The MSR movement that was a fire with the deal that was with this two deal movie initiative. How that position is still stand or
no?
No
okay. Caller. That ended after MSR would have left Nevis and moved to St. Kitts. We moved on from that, and then of course MSR left St. Kitts. But by then we were now engaged elsewhere. You know, MSR, I say it every chance I get, that based on the deal that we had with them, MSR did deliver on their end of the bargain. They promised us that they would do a number of movies, and they did those movies. In fact, I think MSR did 9 movies whilst they were here. But as you know, others intervened in that relationship, and then things went south. So at the end, that relationship with MSR ended.
Okay, well, I just want to get a clarity on that. That is still standing as the procedure. So require forward from the outline of that initiative. So now they have Netflix sci-fi. Another thing I would like to ask, like how just previously, that we see there is some indication towards the dialogue and the firm factor.
Yes.
We like to know on this notion to the administration laying out the format from the federal approach. What is this administration from the local approach? It's interesting now to see how we have seen 2 of our former Rastafari brethren have faced some scrutiny from the police. So I would like to know where the Nevis Island administration is standing on this notion to have better regulation over and in.
Well, I think I've been very clear, Call. If you've been listening to me over the years, and in fact, I believe as recently as my last press conference, I would have made my views very clear that I think that we need as a country, and this responsibility lies in Bastille with the federal government. There's nothing that the Nevis Island administration can do constitutionally to deal with marijuana. The law, the regulations, etc., have to come from the federal government. And our view has been that the federal government needs to move. And I'm not making a statement here about Labour or about Unity or about anybody, PAM or anybody. I'm saying whoever is in the federal government. I was there with Unity for 7 years, and we did not do what we were supposed to do, in my opinion. We did not move with the speed that we should have moved. Labour has been in there now for 4 years this year, and they too have not moved with the speed that they're supposed to move. I am fearful that by the time we get to a point where we have sorted this thing out, there will be no point to it, because everybody else would have moved ahead of us. Jamaica is moving, Antigua is moving, St. Vincent is moving, and I just feel sometimes that we are standing still. The other concern that I have is that whilst we have the Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Samuel Duggins, who's talking about a cannabis industry, and you have people like me as the Premier. Well, I don't have the power, but from my position in opposition in the National Parliament, budget after budget, I talk about the need for us to develop this industry. You then have the national security apparatus coming and raiding fellas in Nevis and locking them up and that kind of thing. We have, in fact, reached out and raised the concern that even in terms of the enforcement that you find in Nevis, more people seem to be arrested and charged for cannabis than even on St. Kitts. So there are a number of things happening here, and I think that there's an element of confusion in the public. So people ask me all the time, I mean, you know, what do you mean by the 6 trees? Can I have 6 trees? Can Rastaman do this? You know, Rastafari do this, do that? You know, people are confused, and it doesn't seem to me that there has been enough effort spent on coming in a way that people can understand and saying, ladies and gentlemen, this is the position. So I had on this very show the new CEO for the Cannabis Authority, and he had with him a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he was brought in as a consultant.
Marshall Emmanuel.
Yes,
Marshall Emmanuel.
yes. So Mr. Emmanuel came in as a consultant, and we had a good show here. They spent, I think, maybe 2 hours with me, if I recall correctly. And it was only during that show, which was only a few months ago, that the CEO said that the application forms for the licenses were now available. And that was one of the arguments that I've been making all along. I keep saying to the government in St. Kitts that, listen, you can't put in place a licensing regime and say people can get a license, and then when the people come to look for the license, you don't yet have the systems in place. So people didn't even have a form that they could fill out for the license until quite recently. You know, so these are some of the concerns and some of the problems. The other issue is, I think there's an element of fear out there now. Let's face it, people have been growing marijuana for a long time in St. Kitts and Nevis. And people have been convicted and gone to prison and struggled and suffered because of it. The government now comes and says they want for all those who are in the dark to come into the light. They want to regulate it. They want to have a proper industry. But whilst they're saying that, the police still raiding people and locking up people and charging people. One young man in Nevis, I gather, was charged $15,000. So you have that kind of duality that is happening, and I've said, no, it can't work like that. And so I can say, because I've said it publicly before, I wrote to the Honorable Prime Minister, I copied the Honorable Attorney General, and I said, listen, grant everybody an 18-month amnesty. Just declare, listen, we stop prosecuting or locking up people, arresting people for marijuana. We're going to put something in place for 18 months, and during that period of time, we're going to go all out to the education, and we're going to make sure that people get the license and register, etc. People know what they're supposed to do. Right? After that, no. If people step out the line, you could say, well, you had your chance. But give people an opportunity. Right now, I know 1 or 2 people contact me and tell me that they go in ganja, and they say that they are not prepared to have, even when Mr. Emmanuel was here, come on the farm because they don't want nobody to know where the farm is, because they don't have no guarantee that you open your farm to the bigger bosses to come and have a look and inspect and all that, and then next week the police reach on your farm the same way. So these are the kinds of fears that are out there. And the fear is coming from the fact that people are bewildered. People don't know what's going on. And so I am just saying that it is time now for the country to do better. Stop criminalizing people over this thing. Educate people instead. Grant that amnesty period. Allow people to come forward and say, listen, I would like to be a grower, or I'm a processor, or I'm, you know, whatever it is I am, and get the necessary license. They have put in place. They have put.
I'd like to say something when you're done.
Yes, I'll finish now. They put in place a licensing regime that offers, I think, some, you know, lower prices for locals. So all of that is there, but it's just, to me, like it's not coordinated properly, and you still have the law enforcement doing their own thing, and then agriculture and the minister saying something else. You have to bring everybody under the same tent and let everybody sing from the same hymn in the same pew, so that we know what we're doing in relation to marijuana. We only have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to leave that to you now. Go ahead.
And brief there. Now, on the aspect of what you outlined, it's very important to see that I was a member of the first a commission that was established in 2017 around here. And now I'm a member of the Licensing Authority, and I find it very disheartening to see that people are being discarded to find themselves being harassed and being discounted against the use of the herb. We have been calling for a moratorium for over a period of time under the farm administration and even on this fire administration. And unto this day, we ain't seen you just talk about amnesty by saying moratorium, because it's better to have a different outlook if we're dealing with an educational format, which was one of the recommendations requested from the first commission that established in 2017-18 around here. So there is a situation that we find our people need to not have no fear and are very serious on it. We should not have people being arrested for herb, because this is what was stated in 2013 going along, where the United Nations General Assembly come and make a resolution on this discussion. That this time we cannot see people going into prison for these kind of charges and being in prison with people who are on heavy charges, where you call, as they call it, predators, and we call them murderers, these kind of things. So we find now we still are going in that same look. I would like to state here tonight, we are not guilty for herb using. Anyone who are using any police or army man, they are not guilty for using herb. They're not guilty, and this is the stand we have to take for our right to be protected as human beings. We think it and the wider part of the region. Because from the CAI Commission, it was said you must work hand in hand together. And all individual countries feel like they're looking for the one person again instead of looking at what the region can cultivate in this industry. You have a blessed night.
Thank you very much, my brother. I know you're passionate about this. It's something you have been talking about for a very long time. I think based on the time in here that we have about 2 minutes left, it looks like we may be able to take another quick call if there's somebody out there who has some burning issue that they wanted to raise very quickly. But it has been an interesting show tonight. I think we have discussed a number of matters. The calls have been quite a large number this evening. People have called in and have shared their views and their perspectives, and that's what this show attempts to do. We want our people to have a forum such as this where they can feel comfortable picking up their phone and raising issues and have a conversation. As I said, we are not going to agree on everything, but it doesn't mean that we need to be disrespectful to each other, and it certainly doesn't mean that we should preach violence against each other. So I end the show where I started it, by encouraging us all to do better, to raise the standard, to ensure that the level of dialogue that we have on this beautiful island of Nevis really is a credit to us as a people. We boast a near 100% literacy rate. We have to therefore demonstrate that we got sense and stop acting like people who don't have sense. I think that's very important. And so I encourage all of us. We have a lot of talk shows, a lot of people chatting. That's fine. Everybody have a mouth for a reason. But I'm asking that when we put ourselves in these positions, when we are afforded these platforms, that we use them responsibly. That's our show. The banner struck up. It means we have to go. I thank all who were part of it, those who listened, those who picked up the phone and called. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This show is rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Von Radio, the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean. Good night and God bless you.
Expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or